recently I have been getting these questions, like mostly from students who are in 11th or 12th. So they directly ask the question, how can I become a pilot in Emirates?
Hello everyone. Welcome to India's number one pilot podcast, in which you've seen amazing guests in past few episodes, and we will continue that journey going forward. So here we are, the hosts today, three of us,
Yeah, it's a
and
host-only podcast,
yes.
right?
Yes, and
So
you'll be seeing few new guests, famous guests on the podcast in the coming
Yeah.
episodes. We are in the 40th
Yes.
episode right now. So
Yeah,
often,
they say if you have shot or published more than 20 episodes, and then your podcast is amongst world's top 1% podcasts.
yes, congratulations to making it in the top 1%, guys.
Thank you for your viewership, guys. Thank you,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes, thank you for your support and the views, the comments, everything. So recently I have been getting these questions, like mostly from students who are in 11th or 12th who wish to become pilot in future. So they research everything on the YouTube and they find that pilots in Emirates, Qatar, very appealing, and the life they live and everything is so good. So they directly ask the question, how can I become a pilot in Emirates?
Yeah.
And this is something which everyone should know. Like the pathway to getting into a wide body is longer than you think.
correct.
So you see on the YouTube the pilots, so they have an experience of what, 5, 10, 15 years, and then they
More than
move to
that.
and then they
Mm.
move on to the wide body.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in the previous podcast, if you must have seen of Captain Ani Divya, she has actually been on in the airline for about over 18 years, and she's a captain for last 5-6 years on Boeing 777. So, the journey to wide body is not immediate. You can't
Mhm.
be from Cessna all the way to wide body. So it is required for you to get some experience on narrow body so that you know how these big jets function before you directly go on wide body, which is so wide and so long in controlling. So your confidence levels would be boosted if you go transition from one aircraft to the next higher and then the wide bodies, okay, rather than from Cessna to Boeing 777. If it is there, then to turboprop, then to the narrow body like Boeing 737 or Airbus 320, and then maybe wide body. Yeah, it could be either Airbus 350 or Boeing 777 or 787.
Yes,
whatever.
plus the number of passengers in wide body is almost double of what you fly in a narrow body, around 350, 400, right? So there is added responsibility for that, and you fly long distance. So you might be over sea also for most of the time. So generally the pathway, like after you get a CPL, you join an airline. So in India, once you have 200 hours, once you have a CPL, you can work for an airline. If you are a citizen in the US, maybe Australia, New Zealand. So there you need something called as ATPL, Airline Transport Pilot License. So for that, you have to work as a flight instructor or work in an aircraft which is less than 5,700 kgs, or and then build 1,500 hours. And then once you get the license, then you move into the airline. But for India, once you have a CPL, you can directly start flying the narrow bodies.
Correct.
And then once you have an ATPL, you can apply to the wide bodies, maybe in India, maybe outside India. Specifically, most of the pilots, they apply to the Gulf countries because it's easier to get work permits, and they can switch to wide body, enjoy tax-free
Correct,
salaries and all.
correct. So
Usually,
there are
they-
two-
Yeah, go ahead.
So there are two ways. Either they can switch from first officer of narrow body to first officer of wide body,
Yes.
or else they can switch to become a captain if they clear all the induction, if they clear all the interviews and rounds of selection. and then become a captain, and thereafter become a first officer on wide body and then captain on wide body. So you have two ways to do it. So it's up to you.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, but then not all airlines recruit from airlines in India, right? Like, does Qatar recruit from airlines in India?
Now they have
Now they have started.
because
Okay.
their CEO has changed.
Okay.
And
Okay.
now
Because there
Yeah.
was a time when Qatar used to not recruit from airlines in India, right?
not all the airlines.
Okay,
Only
a
one
specific
specific airline in India.
Yes.
Okay.
Now their CEO has changed, and now it's okay.
Okay.
They are.
So it's
we
an
can
open
switch.
market back
Yes.
again.
Yes, I think it's mostly about demand and supply. So right now there's a lot of demand everywhere in the world for experienced pilots, right? So if someone has experience, someone has ETPL 2500 hours on type, then probably they can move to any country provided they meet the work permit requirements.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Work permit in Gulf countries, you do get work
Mhm.
permit relatively easily, I believe. For pilots, yeah, pilots do get work permit, right?
Yeah, if they have an invitation from an airline, then it
Yeah,
is easier. Then
yeah.
it's not a problem.
Because in Europe and US, it's not that way. Like, even if you are an experienced pilot, for airlines to recruit you, airlines would require you to have work permit.
So if airlines give invitation to that
Yeah.
respective
Yeah.
pilot, then it is.
Yeah,
then
sure.
they would get work
Sure,
permit,
sure,
right?
Sure.
Yep.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah.
Yes. So the majority of the question, which is asked by most aspiring pilots these days, that is the huge cost of pilot training. So
Mhm.
how to arrange for it, how to arrange for the funds. So we are going to discuss about that, and we are going to go deep into that topic in this podcast.
Yes,
So-
speaking about the cost of pilot training, the total, like if you speak about the cost of training in India, somewhere around 40 to 45 lakh for pilot training or the CPL training in India. And then if you go abroad, somewhere around 60, 65 lakh. In total, this may include everything. Some of them could be the miscellaneous cost, and depending on the lifestyle, the cost can vary.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's,
Yeah,
good,
if
good,
you-
good.
If you choose to cook food at home,
Yeah.
when you are in abroad, then the cost of food expenses would be relatively less. But if you wish to go to the restaurant or order almost on daily basis, then obviously the cost of food that will increase. As well as if you wish to choose if you choose to stay at a place where you are staying in your personal apartment, then the cost will increase for accommodation also.
Yes, and moreover, the cost of training is not fixed. So for
Correct.
India, at 200 hours you get your CPL.
Correct.
But if let's say if you're training in the United States, so there the focus is more on the practical training, and theory exams are relatively easier than DGCA exams. Like the FA
Correct.
knowledge exams are relatively easier.
Correct.
So in India, the most focus is given to theoretical exams, and practical training is there, but in comparison to US, the practicality is little bit lesser. So that's what I think. So in India, theory part is more focused on. In US, the practical part is more focused on.
Yeah.
So in India, you get a CPL at 200 hours, but in US, you get a CPL when you achieve that skill of the commercial pilot.
Correct.
So the number of hours is not fixed. So that's why, let's say the student signed up for a flight school in US. So they would have a package for 205 or 210 hours.
Yeah.
But eventually, on an average, the students complete their flight training in 220 to 230 hours.
Yeah,
Correct.
sometimes 250 as well. So it's like part 61 does require 250 hours. But most flight schools that Indian students go for are part 141. 141 is like a syllabus approved by FA.
Okay.
So, like in India, we have deemed universities. Okay, say DY Patil is a deemed university, right? Now, DY Patil has their own syllabus approved for, say, engineering or medical or something, okay, which is definitely approved by the medical board, okay, which is approved by the basically what is Indian All Universities Association or something. It is approved by that, but they have their own syllabus. Now, as a student successfully finishes that syllabus, that person gets a degree. Same way, Part 141 is like that. Part 141 is specific to each school. That school has gotten approved a Part 141 program to itself. Okay, let's say XYZ school has their Part 141 gotten approved from FAA. Now, as student finishes through that syllabus, that person gets a CPL. There is no as such minimum hours in that. It is minimum skill set. Like
Correct.
that person needs to be able to do, say, engine failure on takeoff. Okay, engine failure below V1, engine failure after V1, or demonstrated engine failure during pattern flying. All kinds of that kind of chandels, lazy eight, steep turns, whatever. So once a student is able to pass that as per FAA standards, yeah, that person gets their license. That's what it is.
Then what is Part 61?
Part 61 is hours plus the, what is it?
Competency
Based, sure, but that manual is there. Aircraft standardization manual. Yeah.
So you have to meet the standards of FAA plus complete 250 hours of training.
Yeah.
So that two conditions you have to meet under Part 161 training.
Yeah.
Part 61 or
Part
161?
61.
Part
so
61.
that two conditions you have to meet under Part 61.
See, the FAA check ride is gonna be the same.
Hmm.
If you do it from Part 141, you might be able to apply for that check ride sooner.
Okay.
That's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
Sooner as in with lesser hours. Because
okay.
you did meet those skills with lesser flying.
Okay.
Like you meet those standards with lesser flying. So that is possible. But FAA check and the license that you get is the same, be it Part 61 or Part 141. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So is there anything like Part 91?
Yeah, so Part 91, it is not a flying curriculum. It is requirements to fly, like
Correct,
how
correct.
you can remain legal to fly. So there are many parts, okay?
Correct, correct.
If I need to refer to FARM for that. But say, Part 125 would be aircraft having seating capacity more than a specific number, okay?
That we are
okay,
not,
then Part
looking.
135 would be, say, charter jets, okay? So airlines have different applicability. Then charters have different. Then the general aviation.
How
has
in
different
India we have CAR, that is
Right.
civil aviation requirements. That way
Correct.
for US
Correct.
it is FARM.
That's about training abroad. Like if
Yeah.
someone is planning to decide whether they want to do training from India or US or New Zealand.
Correct.
So, the training training and infrastructure is kind of better abroad, but then it also depends on the budget of flying.
Correct.
So speaking of the budget, there are like various ways in which you can arrange the funds for the pilot training.
Correct.
One of them, and the most common way, is taking a loan from a bank.
Correct.
So now the loan which you get for pilot training doesn't come under educational loan, because pilot training is a vocational course. It provides you a license at the end of your training.
Correct.
And educational loan is for someone who is opting for a degree course. So
Correct.
these two things are very different. So whenever a student goes to the bank won't understand the loan for pilot training. So they have to tell them, okay, it's a loan for vocational course. And the only type of loan you get for vocational training is loan against mortgage or loan against property.
Correct.
And
Or land.
yes, anything. So you
Correct.
have to keep something to borrow the money from the bank.
Correct.
And right now, if we speak, we are in December of 2023. So right now, the interest rate for the loan is around 11 to 12%.
Depends on bank to
Yes,
bank.
depends on
also.
bank to bank, but average right now, that's what's
Okay.
is going on.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
interest
Yeah.
rates have increased right now. Matter
Yes.
of the fact, than like a year ago, interest rates were pretty less. Now
Mhm.
interest rates have increased for everything, housing loan, then educational loan,
Right.
Mhm.
everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is a way in which, if in case a family is going to sponsor for your flight training, that's great. So you should be thankful to
Yes,
your
yes, yes,
parents if they are
definitely.
spending on the flight training, because it's a lot of amount. That is one way in which you can spend for the flight training. The other way is, if in case they are not in a position or they are not able to afford that much amount at that point, then I don't think students should be disappointed and completely leave this idea of becoming a pilot. If he or she is still willing to become a pilot, he can, first of all, work either as a cabin crew or as an, in the aviation sector itself, and earn some amount to, spend the amount for the CPL.
Mhm.
And after that, for type rating, then he or she can become an instructor, work
Mhm.
for few years, and gain some amount to, so that he or she can sponsor for their own type rating. So this is what is
Mhm.
one of the way in which they can go for the flight training.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here, okay? In this thought, because we three here sit and talk about different opinions, like individual opinions on each thing, right? So and have our own perspectives over that. Okay, what you said is perfect, no doubt. I do agree with it. Okay, we know, like Capt.Neha has done it that way.
Yeah,
Okay, there are many examples who have done it that way.
correct.
Okay, but that said, to save up 80 lakh rupees, okay, after clearing, say after 18 a person wants to become a pilot. Now to save up at least 80
Not
is
80.
say
It's about
70 lakh rupees.
30 to begin with. For CPL, let's
Yeah.
say they have some amount from the family. Let's
Yeah.
say they have out of 40 lakhs approximately to
Yeah.
start with. For CPL, we
Yeah.
are talking about.
Yeah.
We are not considering type rating cost to
Mhm.
begin
Correct.
with,
Mhm.
because that they can do it after, as an instructor, they can
Mhm.
save more amount
Yeah.
and become
Correct.
an
Makes sense.
and then they can do their type rating themselves.
Yes.
That is separate. So we are just now talking about CPL cost. Let's say
Okay.
out of 40,
Okay.
if they have
Yeah.
some amount from parents, like let's say 15 or 20 lakhs, so
Right.
they will have to spend for 50%, let's say
Makes sense.
Yes.
another 20 lakhs. Okay,
And
so
one-
they have to save for that much amount.
Makes sense.
So that obviously, by doing a job, it is not easy to save
Yeah.
that amount in a
Mhm.
short
Yeah.
period of time. But
Yeah.
if age is on your side,
Yeah.
then they can do that. Okay, if they are like 18 or 20,
Right.
Mhm.
then if they become a cabin crew or
Right.
in the aviation sector, there are many of our students who have done that, and who have saved, like as a either AME,
Yeah.
they get
Mhm.
good amount of salary.
Yeah.
If they are already engineer, they work in an airline as a AME, then they save some amount, because they get a salary of they get a good decent salary, not as much as pilots, but still good enough to save for for few years, and then they can spend on it.
Yeah.
So this is what is my opinion. So,
Correct. No.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is-
That's yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's a good way to start their pilot career. So what I think is, to become a flight instructor in India, the training must be done from India. Okay, because generally the flight school hire students who are training at their own flight schools. And speaking about the loan amount, let's say it takes around 40 lakh rupees approximately on an average to do their CPL training from India. So now, let's say if the family is sponsoring 10 lakh rupees, and 10 lakh rupees that person has accumulated in the span of 2 to 3 years, and then if they plan to take a loan of 20 lakh rupees, So that is also a good way. So, but in that case, then the student has to take the responsibility of studying and doing everything right.
Correct.
So it should not happen, okay, the parents are saving, he is saving, and the loan is there, and then is not focusing on his training. So,
Plus, it
yeah,
should not be on the house in which they are living.
yeah.
It should be on the property in which they have, they have got as investment, and they should not. It shouldn't be the house where they are living. In case if
Mhm.
see, a lot of students have got this doubt. Okay, there we will do pilot training, but what about jobs?
Mhm.
So jobs, if you are competent and if the job opportunity is there, so right now there are many job opportunities, but not everyone is getting through
Mhm.
in an airline. Why? It is because they need to, the students who are not getting through need to really work hard in order to make themselves competent enough to become an airline pilot.
True.
So job will not come to you and then you
Mhm.
get into it directly. So you have to work on it. You really have to, keep looking for what vacancies are coming, and you have to work on what is required to be studied.
Mhm.
And yes, we are there for it.
Well,
You to
the
go.
likeliness of getting a job in today's aviation
Is-
market is really high.
Correct.
Okay. Now, even if we consider other industries, say a doctor, okay, how many doctors actually end up making, say, more than a specific amount in a month or a year? Now, doctor is a profession in which probably monetary measuring of success is not how it is,
Mhm.
because their work is far more important than just money. They save lives, and you can't put a price tag on someone's life, right? You can't. Technically, you can't. So, there are any field you take, whichever, be it engineering, be it medicine, be it whichever field, there are successful people, and then there are people that don't succeed. And the reason is not because the industry is bad. The reason is usually the person has not put enough efforts towards it. So, like you said, bringing it home, because I see it on your face. What does this conversation have to do with what I mentioned? Okay, yeah. So I'll bring it home and I'll relate it to the topic that you just said. Yes, there are unemployed pilots for sure. There are many. Some people might deny in today's date because airlines are recruiting. But the reason that they are unemployed is because there is something missing. There is something that they missed on doing. And if they probably do that, they'll probably get a job, most likely get a job.
Correct.
The point is, in aviation, you have to do that before a certain age.
Correct.
If you miss that mark, then you've missed the train, and a lot of money has already been invested. And now to correct that lack of effort, there is no euphemism for lack of effort. It is lack of effort, or you can call it laziness. If you correct that lack of effort at the age of 35, it probably is too late. But then still, we get one life and it's never too late. So that person can become an instructor, can get an ATPL, and then at the age of 40, probably, if that person has corrected what they were missing, what was the missing part, that person will get a job.
Correct.
That's what it is.
True. Absolutely. So students should understand that it is not like everyone who becomes a pilot who will land up in a job, even in good times. So they need to work a certain, they need to show certain level of proficiency in order to get through in an airline. And if they do that, yes, the market is open for you.
Yes, the journey of becoming a pilot is tough, there will be lots of ups and downs throughout the journey. So at each and every stage, the person has to work on their self. So let's say if they start preparing for DGCA exam, that is something technical which they have to be well versed to clear the DGCA exams. And then there are soft skills like communication skill, like how they communicate with each other, what is their proficiency in language English, because English is the language of aviation. And that will also affect on their performance in the interview
Correct.
as well as in the GD.
Correct.
So technical and the soft skill, there are certain like personality which a pilot has to possess to clear the interview.
Correct.
And we have already discussed in detail about pilot personality in one of our podcasts.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Now, personality. Okay, personality is something that psychologists would definitely say is hard to change, is less likely to be able to change. But if you know it, if you know what needs to be done, then you can correct for it, right?
Correct.
Like if a person is way too adventurous, if that person knows about the fact that he or she is way too adventurous than required, can correct themselves at every given point of time when it is required, right?
Correct. Correct.
Because when a person sits in that interview and gives that answer, that reckless answer, that is the point the person is denied opportunity of getting a job.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. As a pilot.
As a pilot, right?
Correct.
Like, yeah, maybe there are fields where being way too adventurous is also required.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
not in pilot career.
But not in
Airforce pilot. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe we don't know. We are not Air Force pilots to comment about it, but maybe a skydiver, a professional skydiver who does skydiving for living, is required to be a little bit adventurous. But the definition of adventure for that person is different.
Correct. Correct. True. So, if in case you face any difficulty in understanding what are the required traits and what is exactly required in order to get through in the airline exams, and when you finish how to finish this entire pilot training, yes, we are there to guide you
Sure.
and help you through.
Absolutely.
So another way to become a pilot, if anyone is high on patriotism, can join the Air Force. It's a great field to start their pilot career, but there's an entrance exam which is very difficult. So if I give you a rough idea, around 1.5 to 2 lakh students apply for that exam, and at the end, when the final merit list comes out, only around 90 to 100 of them get selected. So it's very competitive to get into the Indian Air Force. Plus, you have to be biologically blessed. Like the medicals are very strict at the Air Force. So everything has to be perfect. Then only you get a chance to give the exam.
Correct.
So that is one of the way one can choose to become pilot. But the life of an Air Force pilot and commercial pilot are two completely different things. So everyone right now is exposed to the life of a commercial pilot. And you won't see much of the life of Air Force pilot on social media because due to security reasons,
Correct.
they're not allowed to post anything on media.
Correct.
So that would be something which is completely different for you, and you don't know whether you have signed up for this or no. So it's very important to select like what you want to become and then only go for Air Force.
Correct. 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 Absolutely. So, if in case the finances is a constraint, then that is also a way to become a pilot. And in that case, obviously, as you get selected and the entire selection process is complete, then the training is imparted by government. So, it is a sponsored training. But yes, there are a lot of strict norms in that. The training is intense, and there are bonds which you have to serve for a certain period. So that needs to be done. And of course, there are some pilots who, after retiring in Air Force, do switch to civil. That is also a way you can go about, because the retirement age in Air Force is very, very low. It's about
Yes.
35
No,
to
there
40.
there are
It depends on
two types of contracts.
transport or
No,
sorry.
it is short service commission, or then there is one who retire at the age of 56. Okay, so short service commission is the pilots that retire sooner. And also most airlines in India do have a special recruitment program for Air Force pilots, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
They have a
the
separate
one.
quota.
I remember,
guess.
I remember SpiceJet having one. I believe most airlines do have one.
Yes, they do recruit from Air Force, like the one who retire at the age of 35, 40. In some cases in Air Force, see, when you talk about forces, they have Air Force fighters, and then they have transport. So in transport, the pilots retire little later, at a later age.
Navy is also there.
Whereas if we talk about the fighters, then they retire at quite early age, like 27, 28. That's it.
Right.
Because the cognitive skills, get affected as the age grows. So, that requires super high level of cognitive skills, microsecond of action.
Yeah,
is,
decision making.
really matters. So, that is the reason why the retirement age is quite low. But when they retire from the forces, then they can switch to your civil aviation as pilots. So for them, there is a certain leverage given to them because they have already flown the aircraft. So they just need to do multi-engine flight training on their get their ATPL your papers cleared, so they get their license to fly in civil aviation. That is ATPL and multi-engine endorsed on it.
Right.
So
I don't know if Air Force pilots are allowed to do such content like podcasts or something. If it is possible, then we'd invite Air Force pilots.
if they are retired, they can, but to some certain extent, they have certain information which they can share and some not.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is a part of national security, right?
Yeah, so every one of you or most of you might have a dream to become pilot since your childhood, right? But let's say if your parents are not able to support you financially, then in any case, do not pressurize them to support your pilot training. They have done a lot for you, for your education, start from right from your childhood, and still now they are supporting you in the best of their capacity. So whatever resources are available from your parents, utilize that. If they are not able to sponsor your pilot training, you might work, save up some money, and then start your pilot training. But in any case, don't do any acts which would harm them or harm you.
Correct. Like emotionally.
Yes. So speaking about the loan process, what do you think would be the ideal amount? Because I have seen students asking me that can they take a loan for their whole training. So what do you think about that?
So, amount of loan. Okay, I'm taking this because I started aviation pretty late. Okay, I was not 100% sponsored by parents for my pilot training. I had my funds saved, and I did take help from parents as well, no doubt about it. Okay, but I was working after. Now, loan, how much loan to take? Is we can't give a specific amount to people, in my opinion. 10,000 is a lot of money for a person who earns 20,000 rupees a month. 10,000 is insignificant amount of money for a person who earns 15 lakh rupees a month. Okay. So depending upon their own financial state, I'd say that loan amount would make sense. depending upon what is family income for a year, annual family income for a year, what is minimum lifestyle the family lives, what are the minimum expenses the family has. Depending on that, if the person calculates EMI amount and then plans loan accordingly, then that makes sense. So say let's say a family has an income of husband's income 1.5 to 2 lakh rupees, wife's income 1.5 to 2 lakh rupees. It's a family of say 4 persons, two children, and husband and wife, right? Now both the children are gonna experience some, like, are gonna end up spending some money in their education. Say one goes for medical, one goes for flight training. Medical is not cheap either. That's gonna cost 1 crore. Okay, 1 crore. If you take say 10 years loan with 10% of interest, okay, whatever the, see, let's not get into the numbers details, but whatever the amount of EMI that becomes comfortable for the family to afford, if family is sponsoring, because a child of 18 years is not going to have any assets to pledge to the bank meaning mortgage, collateral mortgage, okay, unless family is involving their own assets to support the child. If that happens, then the family needs to consider that, okay, at least after CPL, say 2 years, the child is not gonna have the student is not gonna have any significant income, because that still is a preparation period or a training period in an airline, or until the salary, until the salary starts. It's at least like 1.5 to 2 years. Sometimes, things are faster.
Sometimes slow also. Correct.
Average 2 years sounds like a good time, right? So if for a family, if 1 lakh rupees of EMI sounds good, then they should take loan accordingly. If 50,000 EMI sounds good, then they should take loan accordingly.
Correct.
So how much is a family's financial tolerance? Accordingly, they should take a loan, is my opinion. That is what I'd have done. I'm not saying what you should do, okay? What I'd have done. That is what I'm saying, okay? That said, rather than how much loan to take, if finances is a constraint, if a person has, say 40 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees saved up and is planning on taking say another 10-15 lakh of the loan for flight training, minimize the flight training expenses as much as possible. Do flight training from India. Do it in the minimum cost, okay? Spend minimum amount of money during flight training. If you do that, then obviously that is gonna help. Like, a person has 30 to 40 lakh rupees, 30 lakh rupees ready and is saying that I wanna go to XYZ country for my flying. That's really financially irresponsible, I feel, because how much ever you minimize on expenses in abroad countries, you can only lower it down so much. That still is relatively expensive.
Correct.
In comparison to India, okay?
India.
At this point of time, it doesn't feel expensive to me. But if you compare it with what I had spent in a day in India on living costs and what I had spent in a day on living costs in the US, there is a massive difference in those two.
Yes.
Correct. Absolutely.
Like a massive difference in those two.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So if
Go ahead.
So like if someone is planning to take a loan, let's say 50% of the loan or XYZ percent of the loan. So, as per the salary of the pilot in today's date, how long will it take for him or her to pay back that money?
Yes, looking at the current scenario, I believe you have made a video on this already.
Yes.
That is based on the average time, I would say.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you take average time from first officer to senior first officer, about 3 years, then and then from SFO to captain, and then
Captain.
1 year. So that total duration,
Mhm.
you can say, average 4 years. I mean, I'm not bragging, but it took me 3 years from first officer to
Yeah.
captain. But
Some
yeah, it depends. That's like very, very short because I didn't do anything other than flying, and I
Some
really
are
had any-
exceptions.
yeah, I mean, it is possible. It is not that it is not doable. It is
Mhm.
possible to be done. There are some of my colleagues also who have been able to do that. That's not problem, as long as the flying is going on good, and you are at a
Mhm.
base where there is a good flying happening.
Yeah.
So, and you are not taking much leaves, and
Correct.
then you're fine. So, yeah, that in that case you can finish it within like 5 to 7 years max. It depends on again how much loan you've taken, and since your
Mhm.
video has given
Yes,
those
yes.
calculations, so they
Yeah.
can go through it.
Absolutely.
So for a pilot or for a student pilot,
Guys, if sorry to cut you, okay, if you haven't watched his video, that one, okay, and you are want any inputs on the cost and the loan
Loan,
and the
salaries.
salaries and their relation, how that financially makes sense. If you haven't watched Winged Engineer's Chintan's video on this, just pause this. There is a
Watch
link
that.
on top, okay? Watch
Yeah.
that and then come back to this, okay? You have to watch that video. It is one of the
Yes.
best videos in India made on that topic.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
So the process like of the loan repayment starts once the student pilot lands a job. So generally, yeah.
Not
So,
necessary actually. Sometimes it is even before.
yeah, it is even before,
Yeah.
but at that time, as Nilay said, like if the family is able to sponsor you
Correct.
around 1 lakh rupees a month until
Correct.
a year or two,
Correct.
or whatever amount the family is able to sponsor, so that is the kind of loan you should opt for. So there is no ideal amount that one should
Correct.
be looking at.
Correct.
So generally, like we advised students to keep around 1 to 2 years of buffer period after they complete the training to start working with an airline,
Correct.
because the process of interview or the process of selection for an airline goes for 3 to 6 months. So if
Correct.
that process goes on for 3 to 6 months, and the next process will only start after 6 months. So if you're lucky, as soon as you complete your training, there might be a vacancy. But if there is no vacancy, if a vacancy selection process is going on, you might have to wait for 3 to 6 months again for that airline to come out with that vacancy.
Correct.
Correct. Absolutely.
Like, how many years you didn't have vacancies come up after
yeah,
finishing your
many,
CPL?
like about 5-6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
6 or 8
6
years. It's 6 years. Yeah.
So, 7th year I started flying.
Yeah.
So after like
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So
5 to
7th
6
year,
years.
yeah, then there was a entire period from which the selection process started till the time I signed a contract. It was about 1 year's process,
Correct.
and then another 6 months of airline training, and then so that
Mhm.
duration is about, it varies from 1 year to 1.5 years. So
Yeah.
depends.
But that duration when she was undergoing the training,
Yeah.
and after that there were series of events
Yeah.
which led to dip in the aviation market. Like
Yeah, after
you-
CPL, yes, there were a lot of recession, global recession
Yes.
of 2008 that hit in that year. Followed by that, Kingfisher shut down when things started becoming
That's
Mhm.
2012,
then.
right?
2011 is when Kingfisher shut down. After that, then all those pilots were absorbed in the airlines which had that fleet
Yeah.
of the airplanes.
Mhm.
So the vacancies were not there. Then the vacancies started coming in slowly from 2014 onwards.
Mhm.
Speaking of
So-
pilots being absorbed in other airlines, Go Air is now, I don't know if it is coming back or not. But back in time, the market size of Indian aviation was not as big, right?
Correct.
Now Go Air was shut down. Other airlines are recruiting Go Air pilots, but still people are getting jobs. because
so
in comparison, the market has grown so
grown so
much
much.
that
Correct.
Yes, so back in 2008, 2012, the aviation market in India was
Yeah.
stable. It wasn't growing at this pace.
yeah.
So right now, the market is growing, plus the opportunities you get every year, maybe twice or thrice. Okay, so if you are prepared for the interview, if you have been doing what should be done, you can get into the airline.
Back then, the size of the Kingfisher airline fleet was even lesser than what Go Air fleet was
Oh.
when it was shut down. So now that those pilots are, majority of them are absorbed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
So that phase between 2008 to 2015 was the most difficult, where
yes.
the license holder or the CPL holders didn't even get an opportunity to appear for the interview.
Yes, that's true.
But right now, it's completely different. Right now, we can term it as the golden period of aviation, where people get to appear in front of 2-3 airlines for an interview.
Correct.
So it is like you go fully prepared. Make sure you get at least 2 to 3 job offers from different airline, and then
that
you
was
can
not
pick.
the case
Yes,
at our
that was
time.
not. But
Yeah,
now it is.
absolutely, Now it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, now it is. And back then, nowadays also, like when I was flying that time, whoever first officers I used to fly who had CPLs from 2008, they have got a job after 2015 itself.
Yes.
So that initial in between, the
Mhm.
period was not that great, where there were very, very few
Mhm.
limited job vacancies, which not, it was not there online to everyone and to all the applicants. It was
Mhm.
very, very few selected candidates used to get an opportunity.
Yeah, off the camera, we were having a conversation that why am I speaking like this? like,
Yeah.
Capt.Neha goes like, why you are so like speaking like low volume and low
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, I can be high energy, guys, but I have a little bit of mouth sore on my tongue. That's why I'm speaking like this. Okay. Regardless, okay. I'll just add to the topic of what we discussed, how much loan and how much percentage of loan of
Mhm.
total cost of flight training a person should take.
Yeah.
To put it in a way that is like an example, why I said that the amounts are different for different persons is like, if I ask you at this point of time in life, in your career, in your monetary achievements and career achievements, say you have 0 loans going on right now. Okay, your car is paid off, your house is paid off. The amount of loan that you would be comfortable to take and amount of EMI, paying amount of EMI, the number that would change nothing in your lifestyle is different than the amount that I would be comfortable paying, than the
Mhm.
amount that you would be comfortable
Mhm.
paying, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
That is why I put forward, because everyone
Yes.
is living a different
Absolutely.
life, right?
Yep.
That is why I put forward that. So in your career at this point of time, say certain amount doesn't matter to you as much. Like, it does matter, okay, but see, when a person earning 20,000 rupees a month goes from 20,000 to 2 lakh rupees a month, his life drastically changes.
Correct.
A person earning 2 lakh rupees a month goes to 5 lakh rupees a month, his life doesn't change as much. That initial part matters so much that is the point that we are addressing here. Yes,
correct.
pilot training is expensive, no doubt about it. Do we or anybody takes joy in paying that much of amount at early stage of career? Definitely not. But it is what it is. Like I and Chintan, did you see that movie 12th Fail?
Fail.
No.
No? Okay. Yeah, we saw that movie. Pretty cool. It's on the pursuit of becoming IAS. It's one of the most prestigious careers and biggest achievements in Indian careers, right? Like administrative careers. It is great.
Correct.
So many people try to become IAS. Not everyone
Gets through.
gets through.
Yeah, so what is the point here? Next, about IAS.
The point there is, once your parents have agreed to sponsor you, treat it like life and death. Because that is the kind of money that the student was never entitled for. Is a favor done by the parents. And in younger generation, sometimes it can happen over a period of time. Like by the time people turn 30, they realize that their parents have done a lot for them. Okay. Even whether they have supported financially or not doesn't matter, but every parent does a lot for their offspring, no doubt about it. If they have sponsored you, if you got CPL done with type rating, and now the person is partying on Saturdays and Sundays and doesn't have a job and is not studying, is not honing their skills, that is injustice to their parents. That is what I mean. Okay. That once you are there, put everything on the line. It is first job is the most important job in pilot career, I'd say. Like after first job, once you have 2,000, 3,000 on hours on type, it doesn't matter. Like you get job in most of the airlines. It doesn't matter means don't do anything lunatic, like anything crazy. The point is that discipline, focus is the point.
Correct.
Right? That is the point. Because the point about 12th Fail movie is that when there is no other option, when the back is against the wall, you end up doing things. Because you have to, you don't have other option. So treat it like one, and most likely it'll serve. That's the point.
Yes, and to sum up today's podcast, what I would like to say is pilot training is expensive. So please plan your finances properly before you get into pilot training. And by no means pressurize your parents for sponsoring your pilot training. Okay. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you in the next one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for watching today's podcast. And I hope you got a good insight from this podcast about how to plan it, the pilot training, if you are considering to be a pilot. And yes, implement it. And if you decide to become a pilot, then we are there to help you.
Absolutely. If you are an aspiring pilot, sign up for CNTAA India's #1 online on-demand pilot training platform for the DGCA exams. That's what it is. Capt.Neha teaches you for all the subjects that are there in DGCA exams. And stay focused. If you are getting into aviation, focus is something that is the most important thing. And it'll be like extending the podcast, but other careers, say engineering, medical, the syllabus is well structured, right? In first semester you do this, in second semester you do this, in third semester you do this. All you have to do is just pass. Okay. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Okay. By no means it's easy. But it's way more structured. You don't have to figure out what I should do next. Some people end up finishing their CPL in 8 to 10 months or say 12 months, and some take 1.5 to 2 years. Is because at every stage of pilot training, a person has to push themselves forward. It's like there is not going to be any external force or external voice except for you that is going to push them. Or except for this podcast, right? It's like, if you say, I'll give next attempt of DGCA exam. Yeah, you lost 3 months, 1 month, okay, 2 months, whatever that. Like, till the time you keep on saying that I'll give next attempt, you have lost a lot of time. If you say, I'll do medicals next month, or I'll do medicals after 6 months, you're pushing it forward. If you are decided and you know what all things are to be done, make a checklist, tick mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, get it over with as soon as possible, because sense of urgency is a behavioral trait, a character trait that is very important in pilot career, I feel. Like being lazy and okay, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it this. No, that doesn't work.
There's no end to procrastination.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because the latest a person can procrastinate something is until the death. So, all right, guys, that'll be all for this podcast. Anything else? All right, as we are finishing this, Chintan, salaries of an airline pilot, go.
Salary of an airline pilot starting with junior first officer is around 1 lakh rupees. Then you move on to first officer once you get released is around 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees. Then as a senior first officer, 3.5 to 4.5 lakh rupees. As a captain, 6 to 7 lakh rupees. Then line training captain is around 7 to 8 lakh rupees. And as a TRI, it's around 9 to 10 lakh rupees a month.
Yes.
All right, Capt.Neha, as we are finishing this, salaries of an airline pilot in a minute. Go ahead.
Salaries of airline pilot are quite attractive. So starting from junior first officer, when you join an airline, it's approximately 80,000 to 1 lakh. Then when the first officer gets released, he's promoted as a first officer, then the salary goes from 1.8 to 2.5 lakhs. Then these are the gross salaries. When you get upgraded to senior first officer, when that pilot clears the ATPL exams and clears the has adequate number of hours, then the salary is 3.5 to 4.5 lakhs. Then after clearing all the assessments of captain, then the salary, and he's released to fly as a line captain, then the salary goes to 6 to 8 lakhs depending on the contract. And when you have adequate number of hours to be eligible for a senior captain without getting into training, then the salary will even become more about 9 lakhs. Then if that pilot becomes a trainer, then the salary is about similar, 9 lakhs, that is LTC. Thereafter, if you don't want to fly in the actual aircrafts for a longer time, then you want to switch to the simulator instructor, then the salary is about 9 to 10 lakhs. And then after experience of certain number of years and hours, then you're eligible to become a designated examiner, and then the salary is another lakh more. So it's about 11 lakhs per month.
Cool. Sounds great. You busted 1 minute, but I think we are okay with that. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, listening, and subscribing. 61% of our audience is not subscribed, so you know.
That's not fair.
Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.